Amy.
I'm Wendell.
And I'm Patrick.
And
this is
Yes,
But Why?
Podcast.
So I recently read this article that apparently a message in a bottle from a German boat in like the 1930s was recovered like very recently in Australia, and it's apparently the like most recent message in a bottle that has been found. Not in this location, but just anywhere in the world. Like, there have been messages in bottles found around the world, but not for the past 40 or so years.
Wait,
it's the
really?
first one in a while.
Okay, so it's not like that's... Okay, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant, like, that was the most up-to-date message that had been found. Like
No,
people are
no.
finding messages everywhere, but they're from, like, the 1850s or something.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, and okay, so the article said, and I thought it was super interesting, that Germany was actually testing water currents by throwing out messages in bottles so that they could see how
Where
the
they end up.
oceans moved based on where they end up,
Yeah.
right? Well, this was one of those bottles.
Wait, that was a test... That was an experiment they started back in the 1930s or 40s.
Yes. That's what they're doing in the 1930s,
Okay.
and then they just
That wasn't
found
like a
it in
U-boat
Australia.
going down and they're just like, maybe someone will find us.
No.
Come
It
here.
It wasn't a real one.
Heimler, give me your bottle.
There's no actual, like,
Gotcha.
messages in bottles that are love letters.
Why can't they
or,
be? Why don't we just do that? Is that
I-
littering? That's littering, isn't it?
Maybe a little. I mean, but hey, Germany did it in 1930, and we're just finding it now. How
Yeah,
much
so
is it
I'll be
littering?
dead by the time they can find me and prosecute
I mean,
me.
how much is it littering, truly? I mean, though that being said, where are the others?
That just means they're all circling in like a whirlpool somewhere out in the middle of the ocean right now. There's just like this big torrent of bottles that are just spinning around each other.
But who knows where the other one... I mean, the last one from the same, like, mission was found in, like, 1943 or something.
Jesus.
Which I think is pretty fast
I thought
for that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just thought ocean currents moved a little quicker than that. Like, apparently ocean currents are just dragging ass if they're just not putting them...
Well, but where
would they
were
go, yeah.
they dropping it from in Germany? Like, were they dropping it by Africa or something? Like, where?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm just saying, like, how close are they to Australia when it's happening? Because it's like, okay, Germany's way the hell over here.
Way high up, too, yeah.
How is it? I mean, that in and of itself, if I were the hilarious part is when they found it, they like legit the paper inside said this is who you need to contact to tell
When you find
that
it.
you found this, because we're just fascinated when to find out. And there's still like a scientific group like waiting.
Wow.
I mean, they're doing other stuff, I'm sure, but it's like they were like cool, and they log it in the computer. They're
Like,
like,
we sent out 600 bottles 80 years ago, and we just got the third one back, guys. So put on a pot of coffee.
we're staying up late.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
That's
a pot of coffee.
Wow. Cafe, as they call it.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah. That's. I mean, the Italians came up with that. So they just go with it. But that's insane. That makes me just want every time I go to the beach to go do that. But I feel like you also need to get kind of out there.
Yeah, I think you
for
need
it
to be
not
out
just
there.
Wash back up on the same shore.
Yes. In fact, there's that spot in the way the water travels, like where you
Yeah.
have to get further than...
Yeah, like just go like deep sea fishing where they take you like 2 miles out from the coast and just whenever the captain's not looking, just start tossing bottles over the side.
I'm sure they hate that.
I'm sure that would be completely visible and a problem instantly. I was like, what?
Don't put it in like a plastic Coke bottle
Well,
or
yeah,
something.
no,
like,
of course. I'd
you
do
have
like
to put
a
it in,
cork.
like,
I'd do like a clear old-timey like Coca-Cola bottles.
old-timey.
Well, yeah.
Well,
'cause
you gotta make sure it's closed, or else your message is lost to the water.
I'm sure that I mean, if I were going to do it, I would throw like 40 overboard at one time.
No.
I would just have one well-crafted message. I would just keep doing circles along the side of the ship and just be like, let's see what's going on over here. There's 15 over the side.
Let's imagine for a
Nothing over
second
here.
that you are toting 40
I just come up clinking like an idiot, like big baggy
Nothing's
pants.
happening here.
Don't mind me. I've got the gout. I don't know.
I'd love to.
I've got whatever the elephant man had.
Oh.
I'm just all lumpy and rattly.
Yeah, them's my bones.
It's like, I don't believe you, but I don't know how this is going to be illegal. So I guess you can come on. If they pat me down and I have a bunch of bottles that don't have drugs or anything in them, then what are they going to...
They open one up, they read the message. What the hell is this?
It's
It's a love letter. To who?
This is just a Mad Libs filled out poorly. What's going on? Because if I'm going to do 40 bottles, they can't all be gold. You know, like some of them are just going to be like a kiss, like lipstick on
Yeah,
a
but
piece
those
of
are
paper.
the ones that people find.
Yeah, or just look behind you. There's going to be...
Look behind you. Good Lord. There were no murders for 100 years, and then this came, and it started a murder spree.
Poseidon needs your help. Pick up the nearest conch and blow into it, just like... Oh, actually, no, I think I would have a huge blast writing 40 of these. Now that I'm thinking about it, just... What are all the scariest, most alarming things I could find? Because, yeah... when you said that the message inside the bottle like I found was like just contact these people, I'd have been really disappointed. To just be like, oh, that's a dumb science experiment. I probably just would have like crinkled it up, throw it in the water. Like,
Yeah.
I want to find like a love letter that just never made it to somebody, and I can just be like, oh, well, two people died sad. I don't know.
Well, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like a Jane Austen letter or like a Ken Burns thing. Like, my dearest Samantha, it's been many a hard winter since we last spoke.
Whenever Chris goes on a trip, he sends me a postcard from wherever he is written like that.
That's great.
But written like where that he's out on the Oregon Trail. Like he's always like, the donkeys were tired today as we weighed them down heavy with furs and skins.
Keep all of those and
I
just
do
make like
have
a
them.
just make like a little coffee table book later on.
Yeah, no, it's fun to write those kinds of things. Do you ever read that Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
No, I did not. Mainly because I tried to read... okay, here's the only reason why. Is because I remember trying to read Pride and Prejudice when I was younger, and there was nothing for me in that book. Like, there was nothing for me as a young teenage boy in South Carolina. And then when Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter came out, which I think, like sort of kicked off this small trend of, like, Pride and Prejudice and zombies and sort of this, like, let's add to this already, existing folklore or mythology or whatever. And I couldn't even read the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter one. And that was shit that I kind of was into. I always liked reading about, like, sort of, like colonial America and stuff like that. And, like, when it was all about...
vampires.
Yeah. See, I thought I'd be really into it.
Separately, they were
like, that
great.
movie was fucking awesome.
I enjoyed the movie, yeah.
So fun. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna read this book, and it read like something from that time, and it just kind of had it was a little bit more prose in the whole thing. I was like, I don't know. Visually, that movie worked. Like having to read a diary written by Abraham Lincoln about how the Civil War really was about vampires and not slavery.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. And it just read very simple, and I don't know. So like I knew that Pride and Prejudice and zombies, that was not enough. Like adding zombies to that was not going to bring me around to it. I don't know. Yeah, I really wonder.
I wanted to read it, and then it became too trendy, and I lost interest.
Yeah, I remember like getting decent, like a kind of a ways into like what's it called, Jane Eyre?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember reading some of that and like feeling good about myself, but then I was just like, there's a lot more to go, and I don't know. It's
a long book, yeah.
Yeah, and I always had a problem reading about like high society in any sort of era, or like these sort of austere kind of things. Like The Great Gatsby, I read it and I was so fucking mad about finishing that book. And I understand that that's kind of the point, I think, that F. Scott Fitzgerald was going for, but I just could not relate to anything in that book. I was like, I remember when I read it, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck is a burrow? That's where, like, rabbits live. Like, I got lost at just how they explained what New York was. You know? I was just like, what? Huh? And then it was just white people ignoring their children and just being the most, like, I don't know, just being the most wasteful, like, human beings, just as far as their whole lives were concerned. They're just playing polo and just blah, 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 blah. I was just like, I'm so glad everybody was sad at the end of this book. I was glad that nothing worked out for anybody, because none of these people deserved anything. That was my whole thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even Gatsby, and I get that, like, that was his, like, whole thing, but at a very early point, it came off pathetic, and also I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm glad he wasted his life. That's where I was at. Because the woman he wanted was terrible. I don't know. Like, nobody was cool in that book to me. So, yeah.
You know what, though? I think, too, what we were talking about earlier before we started recording about characters in television shows and characters in books like this is, I think flawed characters are more interesting, and that's why they write them. And also, people are real flawed in real life, so I think they try their best to sort of emulate the idea of real people, because, like we were talking about with the first season of Parks and Rec, people aren't looking for the positive part to watch.
Right, yeah.
Like, they would like their lives to be positive, and occasionally they need something inspirational to get them through the day that's positive. But, like, in general, we're pretty negative as a people, and we like it that way.
Yeah.
Where if we're watching somebody, we want to watch them fail, and that's comedy and tragedy. Like, even you watch dramas, nothing's going well, it's not getting better.
Right.
You're watching comedies, hey, they're probably going to fail a bunch before things are looking up.
Yeah. Well, like, see, like, so relatability, I think, is definitely a huge factor for me. Like, over the fact that, like, it's terrible, like, whether the people are good. Like, if I can relate with why they're bad, like, if it's something, like, a reason that I've ever done something shitty, like, Shameless is about a really poor family doing a bunch of shitty shit just to make ends meet and just to get to the next day. And, yeah, they're Chicago white trash. Nobody has any scruples in this family. But, like, I get it. I understand, like, the struggle of having to do what you have to do to, like, just, you know, make sure that you and your family are okay, as opposed to, well, I'm just so rich that I've become weary of life, and I can just literally sit here and just drink myself to death on this beautiful grassy plain while, you know, the other side of the tracks has this weird set of eyes looking at me.
Well, but does that mean then that you're only interested in, and it's totally fine if you are, you're only interested in TV and movies that relates specifically to what you understand of the world? Because I think that's a fascinating idea.
I wouldn't say that. I would say I'm drawn to that. But if you're going to have a bunch of characters that are deplorable and sort of irredeemable in some way, or, like, you know, they're just bad people, like I was talking about with Gatsby, I need to be able to relate to why they're bad. I couldn't relate to why anybody in Gatsby was a shitty person, because they were all shitty because they were rich and just it didn't fucking matter. Like,
sure, but you like Arrested Development, and they're shitty for the same reason.
Yeah, but I could relate with Michael trying to hold a family together.
Sure.
Like, if I can find one person to latch onto, literally even the narrator of Great Gatsby, I felt like had too much. Like, I don't know. Like, he was too well off for me to even, like, latch onto.
Yeah.
So, like, if I can find something to hook into, because, like, yeah, I have no idea what that life is. I don't even know what life in California is like, much less a successful life in California. To, like, a mildly, on paper, successful.
If at some point in your life, just flash forward, if at some point in your life you are successful in living in California, I beg you to reread the book and see if you see it differently because you're in those shoes.
Well, I mean, I think that was sort of I mean, from what I understand, like reading back, like, lightly through it and trying to, like, I remember watching the old movie again as an adult and just being like, yeah, no, nothing. And I think, like, that was kind of the point F. Scott Fitzgerald was trying to make, was sort of, like, how fucking, like, pointless all of that is, and how,
Sure.
like, you know, like, how that the pursuit of that sort of thing is, in the end of, you know, a futile effort. So, like, he meant to piss me off, I think, like, to that extent. And I feel like because I couldn't relate with anything that was going on, because I don't even want that sort of, like, Grey Gardens kind of fucking extravagance, you know, like that sort of just sitting, you know, just that 1930s flapper, like, let's just drink and ignore the rest of the world falling apart kind of fucking attitude.
Mm-hmm. I think that was old money.
Old money, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and we have that in South Carolina, and I've never met one of those. But, like, that's normally around Charleston. But, yeah, like, that was his intent, was sort of to just show you how frivolous the existence of, like, this group of people.
Well, but the reason why I bring it up is because I've talked to people about, like, Catcher in the Rye, and how, like, the reason why, and the interesting thing is, people, it blows my mind when they ban it from schools, because kids need to read it when they're in school, because it's about rebelling from what's going on. And I get why the schools don't want to show them that, because, you know, they don't want to be the ones that introduce rebellion to them, but they need to, because why not have it in this kid?
Yeah.
That being said, soon as you become older in any fashion and have a job and live a life and, like, take care of yourself, when you read this book again, you're like, fuck you, kid.
Yeah.
You've got everything handed to you, and you're just whining and saying everybody's phonies. You know what? You're right. We are. Everyone is. Get used to it, because you're about to be an adult. Like, it really changes the way you look at stuff. So I wonder, you know, if you can see, and I'm not saying Great Gatsby has to be something that you have to like, not at all. Yeah. But just to see it from different points of view. Like, I saw Wuthering Heights was one of my faves in high school. And I loved it. It was this, like, you know, really lovely love story. They were so close, and yet they never found their way to each other. And then when I read it again in my early 30s, I was like, okay, come on. Just fucking get up and go over there and say something. Like, I don't understand, you know?
Yeah.
So my point of view has to do with, you know, where I'm at in the, I don't know, love spectrum. When you're 15 and going, oh my God, love means this thing.
Yeah.
It does. But then when you're older and you're like, well, love means this thing. It's different.
Yeah. I think it would take a lot more from a Clockwork Orange if I reread it now. I think it would take, well, not a lot more, but an entirely different message away from that book.
Sure.
Like, because I remember sort of getting swept up and, like, having the encyclopedia in the back and sort of this, like it couldn't have been more counterculture as far as, like, what I was understanding of Great Britain at that time, or, you know, whatever. And I just remember just being like, I don't know, it seemed like a badass book, and I feel like there's, you know, like, watching the movie and everything else, I feel like there's just, I don't know. I think, like, I'm not gonna be so into just, like, how cold and aloof and distant and, like, you know, sort of, like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Sociopathic the main character is, and more just, like, what is the statement that is being made here about, like, violence and things like that. Like, I feel like I will take a much sadder message out of it, I think, even though, you know, like, the message up front at skin level, or, like, skin deep in that movie is pretty sad. I feel like the commentary is something that was lost on me as a kid, because I kept having to go back and translate the fucking words in that book.
Yeah.
And yeah, just sort of, like, it was just one of those things, like, nobody made me read that book. I went and, like, found it just to kind of, like, just read some intense shit. And, you know, the novelty of that was kind of where I think, like, what I took away from it ended. And I think, like, now if I went back, I think it would be a completely different read.
Yeah, the novelty of that book is pretty great. Once you're, like, I feel like it's like, once you're ready to dip your toe in some weird art, read that book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
yeah, and you'll know if it's for you or not. You know, like the whole like chasm that is like really intense weird art, you know.
I bought that book in Germany.
Whoa.
When I was in college, I was abroad, and I bought that book at a German bookstore and read it the rest of my trip. When I was in Germany for maybe a day or two. We'd gone other places, but I ended up using that as the book for a little trip around Europe that I did.
Cool.
And I was like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it I bought it because I was like, it seemed special, and I wanted to make that time special by remembering those two things together.
Oh, I get that. When I was in Germany, I bought the Bible.
Whoa.
Yeah, which I still have the copy. I still like looking up random verses because before the Bible was translated into English, it was translated from Latin into German. So like that is there's a lot more. There's things that when you shuffle translations enough that just it changes so widely, you know. Like there's like weird things in there, like it's "thou shalt not murder," not "thou shalt not kill."
Sure.
And you know, like that's a very heavy distinction in Germany.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just you know, like little things like that. And and also it says it's called Die Bibel, but it just looks like Die Bible. And I just loved taking that shit to church when I got back, just so I could kind of keep up. And I was reading the Dark Tower series by Stephen King at the time, and I remember, yeah. See, that's my whole thing. Is
what
like,
a combo!
Yeah,
the Bible and Dark Tower series.
Well, like I bought the Bible in German mainly as an effort to just expand my vocabulary, and then I bought the Stephen King book in English, so I just had something to really read when I just wanted to like really read something.
Yeah.
And you know, I had gotten into it before I took off. And that's another thing is like Stephen King is one of those things that I kind of want to revisit because I think I would get scared on another level now.
Oh yeah.
Because those books terrified me. Like I read a lot of Stephen King in high school, and generally speaking, like I've never been more scared of a book version of a story than I was the movie version. But 9 times out of 10, Stephen King, the book is way scarier, and way more unsettling and you know, like uncomfortable.
And having seen him and seen interviews with him, he makes it all the worse too. Like just because he'll feed right into that lore, or he'll just be like, yeah, cool, maybe. Yeah. You know, like when people interview him, he just makes it, you know, he's there for the full story. I like that. Yeah.
See, and he opened me up to, or he like, that led into this weird Lovecraft sort of run that I did for a while. Have you ever read any H.P. Lovecraft?
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't. No, I have not.
See, now that is one of those things that proves that like something can be unrelatable and a bitch to read, and I'll still dig in because like H.P. Lovecraft writes.
Well,
like
I read a lot of Dostoevsky, so
okay,
it's just different
weird
shit. Weird shit.
It reads like a 1913 scientist would write. You know, like somebody that was so like sewing babies together to see if they'd live through it. You know, like just like that kind of shit. Because like all of Lovecraft's books are generally like journal entries from a character that he made up, encountering something crazy in a small town somewhere, and generally around Maine or something like that, kind of like Stephen King. And I don't know, it was always just like a poor bumpkin town getting fucked up by some weird other dimensional shit, and this one scientist showing up and just sort of being like, yeah, and then all of a sudden she had a goat for a child. I don't know, you know, just like weird fucked up stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of racist stuff. I ended up like looking through it, just that kind of that boilerplate white shitty intellectual racism that existed around that time, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like just reading that
inspired
stuff.
a lot of good sci-fi, huh?
Well, it also was like, okay, I want to bring it back to something a little more topical. A Wrinkle in Time, that's a movie coming out. Did you ever read that book?
I did.
Okay, me too. I was not, were you made to read it in school?
I was made to read it in 3rd grade because I was in the gifted and talented thing. It was the first thing they gave it to do.
Brag much?
Yeah, that's right. I'm 39 years old, bragging about something that happened when I was 8. That's right.
My road was set out before me.
I was kind of a genius. So, you know what they gave me? Books.
Yeah, I don't know what... I was a really smart kid, too, and I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened.
I don't know what happened either.
I smoked a lot of weed between then and now.
Sure, I guess. But I don't know if that's all it. Maybe.
Okay, so a lot of people were made to read that book. That book was never brought up in school for me. I just found it. I just went to my library, and I was just on this, like, pick up a book with a weird cover kick. Mm-hmm. And I remember...
Sure.
I remember I found a really old edition of it that had someone's attempt at drawing what the three ladies really looked like. Mm-hmm. You know, like, what was it, Miss Witch or Mrs. Ware?
I have no recollection
like
right now,
Oprah,
to be honest.
Mindy Kaling, and Reese Witherspoon's characters in the movie.
Right.
Like, they, you know, they're women on Earth, but they are, like, these pan-dimensional, like, Pegasus-looking things. Like, the book describes them in a very detailed way, and somebody tried to draw them in, like, 1978 on this cover. And I was just like, well, that leaves everything wide open. It was just like two of these horse-looking fucking things on this book. And I was just like, well, I gotta do this. And I remember reading it, and it's weird that they made you read it in 3rd grade, even though you were so brilliant and talented.
Brilliant. I was
because
a brilliant 8-year-old.
that was I would consider that like the first hard sci-fi that I read. Like because for it to be geared towards kids, it deals with like going to different dimensions. It deals with like different planets.
But don't you think don't get me wrong, I have no idea if this was like the teacher was 25 and was like, this will be interesting, or if it was like specifically given to us. But I think those kinds of ideas, when given to young minds, can actually be made, use of.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, people tell you, no, this is what reality is. No, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And then if you're told that so many times when you're 8 years old, your brain's not going to open up when you're 45 and go, well, maybe there are other dimensions. You're like, fuck no, I know that that's incorrect.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
No, I
wonder
get that
if the
entirely.
idea is, like, she wrote it, it's super deep. Maybe now, if I were to read it, I would see it in a certain way.
Yeah, I might be like...
But, like, how old were you when you read it?
I read it in 6th grade. I just found it. In my library at school. And, that was the beginning of, that started a trend of me just going and finding the weirdest looking books in my library. Because my library wasn't really anything to shake my school library wasn't really anything to shake a stick at. So it was kind of just like, I don't know, I hated nonfiction. So I would just go to fiction. I would go to, like, sci-fi or fantasy, which generally had, like, all the other major world religions besides Christianity in it. And, which I actually got in trouble for writing a newspaper article about that in school.
Yeah.
Because, the only thing under religion was Christian books, and then everything else was under mythology or fantasy. And I remember my librarian coming to me at the end of the day after that article went out, and, like, just looked like her fucking hair was all a mess, and she was just, like, exhausted, and she was like, this is how the Dewey Decimal System works. And, like, explained everything to me, and I was just like... Well, that shit is like 200 years old, so how about we just update it? I don't know, just move those books one row over and then we're good. I wouldn't start shit. But, I remember, like, I read that and,
Well, Dewey Decimal was prejudiced.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Decimal needs to fucking, like, update his, like, understanding of the world, because, but, I remember, like, reading that book, and when I say, like, hard sci-fi... No, I told her that. Like,
Oh, no, I'm just imagining that Dewey Decimal is like a person. Like, that's his name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mr. D Decimal needs to... And the thing is, though, is... that was an asshole move on my part, because all that did was start shit, and all these other kids read that article and then just went and harassed her verbally. I was just trying to, like, point something out so maybe they'd just fix it. But all these kids were like, what the fuck's up with that? And just made this librarian's day hell.
Yeah, but that's not like... Don't take that as a life lesson. I mean, unless you already have. But I feel like you have to point stuff like that out, even if it results in a bunch of assholes. I mean, it's kind of like what the internet is.
Yeah.
You could have well-intentioned anything, write an article, post it up. You're like, this is important information people need to know. And then all of a sudden, I mean, all the commenting or even the people who have your back, but have your back in a way that's like way more intense than you wanted. Like, you're like, whoa, we don't need to burn that place down.
Yeah.
Let's just maybe not shop there. How about that? Like, one of those things. Well, so that happens. You just dealt with it on a tiny elementary
I also realized this wasn't really
middle school setup.
But I realized that, like, this wasn't really her call. This wasn't her. She didn't set this shit up. Like, this was something the school had her set up this way. Oh. And, because I had built a rapport with this librarian. I was in there all the time. She was a smart lady. She was a very intellectual, not closed off person. This wasn't her call, but she was the representative of this thing. So
how old was she? She old?
I mean, I would say early 60s. Not like hobbled over. Like, she was like, she taught me a lot. She showed me a lot of stuff. She was a very smart person. I just kind of, I really thought it would come more to like the principal or something like that. But everybody just went and just unloaded on this older lady, and I just, she was like, look, she actually like printed out the way like the Dewey Decimal System is supposed to be organized in South Carolina libraries or like school libraries or whatever, and the way that, I mean, because I think like in a school library there are different rules for the layout and stuff, considering that they have like banned books and stuff that you can't show kids and everything. So like there's probably different protocols because no public library has banned books,
Sure,
and
I guess so.
There's no limitations on what you can have on the shelves on a public library outside.
I bet you there's some limitation.
I gotta be, but I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I can.
It's like the mayor can ban something.
Sure. I mean, who doesn't love a good book burning in the middle of the town square?
Right? Who doesn't love a little mayor exerting his power over literature? Oh, I was going to ask you, did you have any teachers that were in their 20s? Like, do you remember having any teachers that were younger who, like, because I've only realized now that I had teachers that were young, because at the time they didn't seem young because they were, I don't know, 26 or something, and because I was 17, it was like, whoa, you're old.
Yeah, I did. The reason they stood out is because they were the only attractive teachers in my high school. That. So like every female teacher I had that was under 40, I was super attracted to and tried really hard for. They were all married or whatever, and generally like that was more common in elementary school, and then like in high school it was a much older crowd.
Yeah, they don't like to put the young ladies in there.
Yeah. I mean,
and thus far in the years since they changed that, I'm pretty sure they're going to change it back because those young ladies have taken advantage of the situation.
Yeah. Moving on. Moving on.
I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and all of our teachers were women. So yeah. I just was around all women the whole time. In fact, everybody was except for the janitors.
So you did have some like 20-year-old nun teachers?
They weren't all nuns. There was like maybe in the teaching staff there were maybe like 2 nuns out of like 20 teachers or something. Okay,
do they have like nunnish attire though?
They wear the
teachers?
They wear the whole garb. Wait, no.
Okay,
regular
so the
teachers just wear clothes.
See, I've always been very confused as to what happens in Catholic school.
It's pretty much just regular school with uniforms and regular church.
Yeah, every day?
No. You have to say a prayer at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
As a group, but there's usually only mass like once a week.
And that's mandatory?
Yeah.
Okay, because Michelle and I have talked about this a lot. She went to Catholic school, and I don't mind raising my kids Catholic because whatever, make them fun wizards or whatever the hell that is.
Mm-hmm. Fun wizards.
Like, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'll go to
There's
Catholic
no
mass.
powers. I'm just
say that.
sorry.
Don't say that. They can't have all that pomp and circumstance and all the cool, like, gold and shit. And, like, I feel like God's watching me in a Catholic church.
I mean,
feel like
they're the only group that has saints that they, like, exalt to the point of, like, godliness. So, technically, if you're real good in the Catholic Church, like, you could become a god.
Yes. See? That's magic. That's power. That's something you can bestow on somebody that isn't even alive anymore. You can make millions, possibly, of people pray to this dead person. Yeah, okay. But the
Pope just created a new. The Pope just created a new holiday.
What is it?
It's just a feast day celebrating Mary.
Wait.
Another one.
Okay. See,
It's pretty important.
she is. I guess
She did a lot of stuff.
You know what? That was the first thing that grabbed me about Catholicism. Is like, why does my religion not talk about Mary at all? And also, why did we stop talking about Mary almost immediately after she had Jesus? Outside of her being a mess about Jesus getting crucified. Like, the only time...
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
there's like maybe one story in the middle where he's like preaching and he's like 7 or 8 and she's like, hey, let them eat dinner.
Yeah.
But like, that's about it.
Yeah, and then every time after that, he's like, calm down, woman! I'm Jesus. I'm doing Jesus stuff. And it's like...
I'm pretty sure any child that you have is going to say, calm down, woman.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
doing
well,
my own stuff.
it
like,
was
when
her-
you get to a certain age.
It was her doing what she was supposed to, and then Jesus just being like, I'm not yours, basically. Like, I got God's mission. And, you know, like, she... And I mean... That is to say that, like, Joseph definitely had shit else to, you know, like, to do. like for every...
Joseph's not around.
Yeah, I was going to say, they stopped talking about Joseph instantly after he taught Jesus how to be a carpenter. Like, that is the only influence Joseph had, and then he died, I guess. I don't know.
Well, stepped out of God is tough to have, like, as a feast day.
I guess, yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah, to have to follow that act in bed, I'm sure
It's
is...
super interesting. No. The idea that, like, the whole religion doesn't accept, like, divorce or whatever, but, like, the first thing is a guy who's like, I'm gonna take care of this other guy's kid.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty solid, like, move. Joseph should be way more exalted.
That is the real example as to why divorce shouldn't be a thing. It's like, Joseph...
Wait, divorce should not be a bad thing.
It should not be a bad
Divorce
thing.
should
Yeah,
be like,
I'm sorry.
hey,
it should not be.
you know
It
what?
should not be. Yeah, it shouldn't be something anybody gets mad about.
Stepdad day everywhere.
Well, it's
right?
like Joseph was the world's first. I don't know first, but most popular cuckold. Like 100%.
You love that word.
I love it.
I'm going back to the Pope. The Pope invented this new holiday,
Wait,
though. He has the power to just make a holiday. And you're right, millions of people will now celebrate this holiday. It's part of the thing.
Is it at the end of a fasting situation?
I want to say it's either the day before or the day after Pentecost. That's all.
Okay, what is Pentecost?
Oh, shit. Don't test me.
Summarize it. Give it to me in 10 words.
I don't know well enough, and I'm going to say it wrong, and my Catholic friends who probably listen to this because they're nice human people are going to get mad at me. It always makes me think of fire. Yep. I don't know.
Well, I
I'm
think
not
of
going to
Pentecostal. I know what Pentecostal, like, that denomination is, and that's the crazy snake talkers and stuff.
No, I think it's near, I think it's, like, near Easter.
I didn't know that Pentecost was a holiday. Is it a couple of days? Is it because like
Day.
It's one day. One day, the Pentecost.
Don't make me look it up.
We can't.
I'm not
You're not allowed. You're not allowed.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna fake make up the liturgical calendar. I can't do it. I know too much and yet too little all at the same time. Well, back when I was like had all the Catholic around me all the time, I was good at knowing when the stuff was and what it was about.
Yeah,
because you talked about it a bunch.
Yeah, or you get a ruler across the knuckles or whatever the hell, right?
Nobody beat you. No. The reason why I was thinking about the Catholic school teachers is because it occurs to me how many of these like 20-something women like were the catalyst of various different rebellions among us. Like one of the girls was a religion teacher, and I can't believe they allowed a like 24-year-old religion teacher because like she came in and was just essentially like, you can pick and choose whatever you want, man. That's how religion is. And they were like, no, you can't tell them that.
No.
Catholicism's about all or nothing.
You get the oldest,
you gotta take
most shrunken with hate nun, and you have her teach religion.
Yeah, exactly. That's who teaches religion. But they had Miss Delkey, and I bet she's married now. Her name's probably not even Miss Delkey. I think about her because she was just totally one of those cool ladies who we were like, yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she was, I think she might have been attractive. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
I didn't notice her in that way. There was a lady who I think other people might have found attractive. We had a drama teacher who kind of had a Cyndi Lauper look.
Well, it was an all-girls school, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. So, like, other people being other girls in the Catholic school, which I'm sure was not an uncommon thing.
What?
I mean, you got to be turned on by your female teacher. Were all the teachers female, too?
Yeah.
Of course they would be. I'm sorry, I'm getting, like, looped around in, like, how this even...
Oh, no, I meant, like, people in general. I didn't mean, like, at school people thought she was attractive.
Got you.
I'm pretty sure nobody was like... I mean, no, I actually have no idea.
Okay.
Perhaps there are girls
I
in
wasn't, like, trying to
high
go down
school
this,
class
like,
that were lesbians, but I don't know.
type storyline.
People always think it's super sexy Catholic schools, but it's really it's essentially a long hallway.
Okay.
And that's it. It's a very small school. I had 60 people in my graduating class of high school.
Oh, shit. Okay, you just reminded me. I did have one young dude teacher, and he stood out.
Tell me about the young dude.
He was awesome. And I remember hearing about how awesome he was. Like, I got him in 7th grade, but I remember hearing about how awesome he was all through 6th grade. And, like, I got to interact with him, like, little bits. He was really funny. His name was Mr. Wooten. And he was one of those dudes that was really funny. He got that I wanted to be funny, and he got that I was smart and, like, knew how to, like, take air out of the funny and make me learn and, like, pay attention and stuff. And I remember getting so excited that I got assigned to his class. And then 9/11 happened. And he was in the Army Reserves. And he had to go in the middle of the school year.
Oh my God.
And I got the worst replacement. I got the meanest, most sourpuss old lady. She, like, literally, like, the complete polar opposite of what he was. There was this other woman that you just did not want to ever have as a teacher, and she was the one that filled in. And I just remember just being like, all right, 9/11 hit me real hard, yes.
What happened to Mr. Wooten?
Oh!
Tell me he's alive.
The thing is I never got to elaborate on it because that war went on for a minute, and I got into high school by the time he would have come back. I think he came back. I'm pretty sure he came back. But, like, I was in high school at the time.
Small town, you don't know?
Well, by the time I got to high school, I started smoking weed, and, you know, like,
I guess you're right.
Like,
I don't know where any of my people are either.
Yeah, like, that was one of those things. I was so butthurt. Now, honestly, I spent the whole rest of the year making that lady's life a nightmare. Mainly, not even really, just for who she was in this story. Not even that she was really particularly mean to me. She just was not what I had. You know, like a child of divorce. I just took it all out on the shitty, you know, mom or whatever. And yeah, no, I remember she's the reason I started writing comics. Because, like, she was the bad guy in a lot of my comics. And, you know, like...
Oh,
and then
I'm sorry she had to be there then.
I don't know. It's like...
She was necessary.
Honestly, I wish 9/11 had taken her.
Oh, no!
To war!
No!
To war!
But no, you just explained why you needed her in your life. She was the catalyst for you starting to draw comics.
I guess, but then she's the reason...
You went to college for comics.
I know, but I also almost got expelled for those same comics.
Sure, nobody likes an artist. That doesn't mean you shouldn't keep doing it, and you aren't still doing it. That's so interesting. You hate her, but she's the reason.
I drew a comic today. Look at it.
She's the reason.
I showed you. I drew a little cartoon today because I was getting bored. This is one of the guys I used to draw in my comics. Yeah. This is a dude, I don't know, kind of looks like me, but with a beard.
He's got big hair.
Yeah, no, yeah, but The thing is because I made her the bad guy, and she was so obviously the bad guy in the comics, because I was so good at drawing her, because I hated every wrinkle on her face.
Sure.
That the next year a teacher found it, and it kind of seemed like a Columbine possibility situation, because
Good Lord.
I didn't kill her in the comics, but she was constantly like the Elmer Fudd to the other characters, Bugs Bunny. Like,
see, that's
she got anvils dropped on her. She got like that.
I have to
got
say
hurt.
though, that's the reference that you make to Columbine, because I was like, Columbine, when would they have ever thought of that? Oh, you're younger, which means that probably happened around the time you were in high school or something, right?
I would say I was.
Were you in high school when that happened?
I was probably in middle school when that happened.
Really? When did it happen? Don't
know.
Google it.
I don't know. I want to say early 2000s.
Jesus Christ, you're in middle
shit!
school?
No,
early
okay,
2000s?
no. I know when it happened.
No, you weren't.
It happened.
What year is it?
No, I was in high school because. Okay, so my dad died when I was younger.
Yeah.
And he didn't leave a whole lot, but him and I were similarly shaped and had, like, I was really tall like he was. So one day I went digging through a closet and I found a denim trench coat. And I was a sophomore. And Columbine had to have just happened, because I remember wearing this just because it's a fucking denim trench. Like, it's a denim duster. Yeah. Like, it went all the way down. It had pockets. I was
awesome.
like, who the fuck would have it? And I wore it. I got 3 steps inside that building before one of the vice principals comes running up and just puts his hand on my chest. He's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? He was like the cool guy. He was just like, what is your problem right now? And I was like, what? He was like, they called themselves the Trench Coat Mafia. What are you doing? Columbine was like a month ago. And I was like, oh, fuck. You know, that's not what he is. It doesn't matter what this is. I was like, it wasn't denim. Like, I made all these arguments as to, like, I was like, dude, I am just trying to be a weirdo. I am just trying to just wear the weirdest thing I could find. And, yeah, no, I ended up, like, I had to go back outside. Like, my mom hadn't even, like, pulled out. She was, like, still dropping me off. Like, she hadn't even pulled out, and I had to go, like, put it back in the car. Like, I was not allowed to wear that trench coat into the building.
Oh, my God.
So, Columbine had to have been really fresh.
That's
in
so
everybody's
interesting.
mind
So I get it now why they would overreact to you drawing a comic book in which you killed your teacher. Mm-hmm. Sure, I get that. Man, you know, I wonder if all of this, if one thing begets the next. Meaning, because when I was in school, nobody shot each other. There wasn't a concern that people were going to shoot each other. And so if you were drawing comics about how you were murdering people, nobody was caring, right? I don't know how many serial killers or murders happened in my generation of people.
Yeah.
So who knows
Most
how it
people
went.
don't. Nobody else in your
knows?
generation does, because we didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. We can only talk about so much.
Sure. We have no idea. And we don't have a 24-hour history cycle where they tell you what happened.
Hey, here's why you should have been scared in the summer of 78.
Yeah, exactly, whatever. But so because of that, I wonder if the one thing happening when you were a kid, and then, so Columbine happened when you were a kid, they started having all these rules, restrictions, and stuff like that. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but you are the age of the generation of people that are probably mostly parents right now, whose kids are in these schools.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the, like, tightness in which they grasp them, or, I don't know, I guess not this kid. The most recent kid was just sort of fucked up in the system, living in the system. But it's like, I wonder if some of that begets some of the fear now. Just like sort of compounds until it explodes like a powder keg. Yeah, no,
I think I know what you mean. You mean like just with the zeitgeist in general, just like with like what kids understand now?
Yeah.
Like what is the possibility?
Yeah,
totally. Because again, that thought never entered my mind. Mm-hmm. And also, I maybe barely heard about Columbine. I was a kid. I didn't watch the news. Like,
sure.
And generally speaking, that was nowhere near where I grew up. So like my mom didn't make that she didn't make sure to like tell me to, fucking wear my Kevlar to school or whatever. Like, the paranoia wasn't there. That kind of was this weird freak incident then. You know, like
Wait,
this...
Tim, do you own actual Kevlar?
No.
Is like a family thing?
No.
Okay, sorry. Back out.
Yeah.
All right,
but,
sorry.
like, they
It
make
seems
Kevlar
real.
backpacks now.
Are you kidding?
No.
Because you don't want your books shot? Oh, because you can put it on your front. Oh.
Or just anywhere the bullets are coming from.
Sure. Yeah, I bet.
And that's not like a cute
Congrats,
prank thing.
Kevlar, on finding that market.
That's not a cute prank thing either. And the funny, well, not the funny.
No.
Thing, one thing about that is that Kevlar weighs so much more than standard fabric. So like, there's gonna be all these kids.
Chiropractors are also making money off the whole thing.
There's gonna be all these
or
kids.
they're really ripped because they're carrying these really heavy things.
They're gonna be little hunchback children.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
okay.
they're gonna be just huddled over. But
in 100 years, we're all shorter, but we're like hunched.
yeah. But we are ready to duck and roll. Our reflexes and our awareness.
Everybody's taking jujitsu. I think about that kind of stuff because Chris and I talk about how we don't want to make sure that the baby, of course he won't be a baby at this point, when we put him in like jujitsu or karate or something like that.
Get him in early.
Yeah.
Hey, as soon as it's legal, start teaching him jujitsu.
Oh, absolutely. We want to get him in, like, in the 5-year-olds class. Yeah. So he's, like, part of because it's good to have a community. It's good to have a community outside of school so that if school doesn't work out, because we all know there's times when it doesn't, you can go to a different community.
Yeah.
So, like, if he's 16 and he's in school, maybe he wants to hang out with school. Great, you can do that. But if school is not awesome, then he can go to jiu-jitsu and be like, these are these friends, and they're different, and I don't know.
I get that. My parents thought about that, but, like, I think
I hear it's expensive,
they had
so
the mission,
probably won't.
They had the mission, but I was a really angry kid. They realized how angry I was, and they were like, nah, I'm not going to teach this kid a deadly art also. Yeah, like, they was
I
one of
feel
those...
like that's a good thing to teach an angry kid.
Yeah, I probably would have thought I was too smart and just used it for evil. I don't think I would have been the kid. I would have been like the Cobra Kai kid in Karate Kid.
No, you're not evil.
Ralph Macchio. I was a dickhead when I was younger. Yeah, hormones
You're
running and everything.
all-
I was an angry, mean kid. I was a spiteful monster, and I feel like 10% of that is stuck around. Like that's still deep down somewhere. But like I every time something really hateful pops up, I either say it out loud as a joke immediately, or I'm like, all right, well, that's one of those reasons that you're going to hell, and that's fine. You know, like I've already accepted that.
I actually wonder, to bring it back to characters, if people who write horrible characters are just writing out the people inside them that like are terrible people. Because I think about that all the time.
Or like Chuck Palahniuk, the guy that wrote Fight Club.
I was just gonna wait and see until you stopped trying.
Trump, Ivanka.
I think it's just Palahniuk.
Palahniuk, but there's an I there, and it drives me crazy. There's an I between the
like
N
an
and the U.
H. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Why shouldn't it?
It's just cultural from wherever he's from.
Bail on the U or the I. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sorry. That's how he spells it.
I want to start a fight club just so I can fight him over his last name.
I'm sure that's where it all started.
Yeah.
He got into a fight with somebody, and then they were like, hey, listen, I'm not going to change the spelling of my last name, but I would be interested in fighting you again tomorrow as a friend.
Yeah.
That seems like a good idea. And then that's how it happened.
I get that. But every time the I or the U is riding on it, right?
I like the idea that at the end of a fight, like after the two of them are bloody, that they would just take a deep breath and then calmly have a discussion about the idea of what they just did.
Yeah.
As if that's what happened.
Yeah.
As if all the like adrenaline and testosterone has just died down, and they're like, oh, well, that was excellent fisticuffs.
Let's unpack this. Over some tea, perhaps.
You know, whenever people use the phrase unpack, I'm not really sure what they mean because I've never been to therapy.
That's not evident at all. They tried to put me in therapy when I was in 3rd grade, but he just said I was brilliant and sent me home. He told me I was too brilliant for my own good.
And that's what's led to my ego problems throughout my life.
He just inflated my narcissism, sent me off into the world telling me I was healthy. And
They told me I was gifted and talented, okay? I was in a group.
I read a book with 180 pages in it.
Guys, I was 8. I only have one other recollection. Okay, this is something. I'm going to put on blast the person who stole my invention. I'm going to tell the story now. So, also, because I'm a genius, they asked us, okay, this is what happens. When you're a child genius, they make you do things, and then they steal your shit because you're a child and you can't do anything about it. So, I was a child genius, clearly, in Boston, and they had all of us child geniuses, it's not what they called us, gifted and talented, you know what's up. They had all of us do inventions of, like, something that we thought that we needed, right? So we all had to, like, make something, and we had to make it so good that we could present it at the Museum of Science in Boston. And that was a big deal. There was a whole area that we and the other kids from around Massachusetts were all going to come, and each one of us would have a little table to present our thing. And like, awesome, right?
Yeah.
As a child, I remember inventing,
Cold fusion.
It's not a big deal. No, so I was a kid who kicked off my covers. And so I essentially invented a sleeping bag with little attachments to the edge that like held onto the bed. So it'd be like a little elastic band on all the 4 corners that held the sleeping bag down in place, so you can't kick your covers off. You're just snug in there. So I invented this, thought it was a genius because it was something that helped me. There were all sorts of other inventions around that were great. I remember going to the Museum of Science. It was so awesome. And then a few years later, when I'm living in New York or whatever, I see the little elastic bands being sold as a thing.
Oh.
Like little elastic bands to put on your sheets to hold them down, just like I had in that thing. And I was like, I did not make this. And I'm not saying that like I am the only person who ever came up with this one idea, but I thought to myself, I wonder if like people, they got a bunch of kids
walk around through science fairs.
Yeah, and they just write down the ideas because most of these kids are just doing it to impress their parents. They're never going to be inventors, you know?
Yeah, this is literally just to pass science.
All I did it for was to go to the Museum of Science and tell this story 30 years later, clearly. It does say something though for like memories that you can really carry with you for 30 years. But yeah, I'm still a little bitter that I didn't get a cut of that profit.
I was robbed as a child of an intellectual property, not necessarily something I invented, but there was like a poem writing contest in my school, and I got published, but I never saw a fucking dime of that money. You know, like, that was my whole thing, is like, I got published.
Did they pay poetry writers, though?
Well, somebody
Even
got
now.
paid for taking some shit a 4th grade child wrote, and then, like, somebody got money for that.
Oh, sure, yeah, the magazine maker probably made.
No, it was like a hardbound, like, special edition poetry book that was was only filled with child poetry from all across the country. And I got a page that it was a poem I wrote.
Dude, you're published. You're a published writer.
What is that? The thing was like, I was pumped. I was one of 2 kids in my school to get published in that book. And, you know, all the other ones were from everywhere else. And, but I just think about that, and it's like, I mean, and it was a small book, like, Yeah, I don't know, like something you'd like. It almost looked like a prayer book or something. And the other kid's poem was way better than mine. The other kid's poem was like about being born, and mine was just a fun rhyme. Mine was just like I just understood rhyme structure, and I just wrote a fun shit like thing for kids to say. Like it was very like Shel Silverstein. It was just about like people sitting on my back, and his name is Mac. You know, like shit like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I nor my parents. I don't know. I probably signed something as a kid that like signed away any right to that or whatever. Did. But that is probably a thriving business. Is just saying like, hey, here's the contest. We'll give you like a box of cookies if you write a poem, and then they go and like compile all these things and make money off of it. Mm-hmm. If not just from your parents, then like weirdos that buy child poetry. I don't know if that's like a fucking section in Barnes and Noble or anything, but like
I doubt they have their own section. But,
right?
Yeah. But they're those guys.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's like the chicken soup for the soul area.
Yeah, but for like the dumb underdeveloped soul, like right below it. And then here's some shit some kids wrote down that we're charging $15 for.
People love kid shit though.
Oh yeah, no, and I think my mom bought 3 copies of it. Like it's somewhere. I would love to find it. I'm not super proud of that poem, but just the idea that like somebody printed that shit is kind of cool, you know?
Yeah.
But again, that's under the pretense of it being some like national contest or whatever. These people made a dime off of just children trying their hardest to make an A or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember spending all night writing that poem, and like because I wrote like 4 lines that all kind of followed that same thing. Yeah, because like I had a lot of good ideas, but like I wanted it to follow like a story. Like Shel Silverstein's things always started off and it's like fun, but then it leads to like a kid getting eaten or something. You know?
Sure.
You know, like something kind of dark. And so yeah, that was I was reading like Where the Sidewalk Ends and shit at the time, and that was like a big influence. But I also got over the novelty of writing poems immediately after that. I was like, this is dumb. Like that. Like I kept saying that the whole time. I was like, writing poems is stupid. Poetry is stupid. I'm gonna write this and whatever. And then I got published, and I was just like, no, poetry's still dumb. I don't know. Like I was like, I still had no love for it. I just remember like Shel Silverstein really like brought me in, but then after that, I kind of was like, nah. I don't know. There needed
Man, your creative success has been smacking you in the face consistently, and you're just not looking at it. You're upset about this poetry win.
Yeah.
You're sad that bad teacher caused you to all of a sudden have this talent in comic book drawing.
Right.
Who knew?
Yeah, but again,
I'm not going to blame it on 9/11. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm not super proud of those comics, though. Like, I'm proud of the comics that came after I got in trouble because I learned a lot. Because, like, I took all the hate out of my comics and I just tried to be funny after that, and that was sort of where it came from. Because, like, originally the comics were just a vehicle for me to express my anger or frustration towards her or a group of people or just other people that annoyed me in school. And yeah, it was all, and like South Park had just come out, so I was like, I'm just gonna write all the fucks and shits and titties that I can write into this thing. It was very just like,
sure.
It was just, it just, all the bullshit just came out. And then I almost got expelled. I remember like when they found that book, I was at lunch and the teacher went through my bag because I carried all of my comics in a binder that I showed everybody else when I felt like it. I would write stuff and then I would just let everybody read it. And she was like, what the hell is this thing? Because I was filling this thing up. So she just went through it and then just found all this stuff where I was like attacking this one lady and like other kids in the same class. I was calling all kinds of terrible names and, you know, just making them the worst. And I remember coming back from lunch and it was her and 2 cops waiting outside the classroom.
Cops?
Yeah. No, they thought it was like a pre-Columbine effort or something. And they thought it was like me. They thought it was like my to-do list or something, you know? And
wow.
And then yeah, I had to have this whole thing. My mom came in, she's like, what? You know, like my mom had no idea. I was like, she knew I was drawing, but she never wanted to read any of it, so it was like, and it was, you know, it was sloppy, ugly shit, so it was just like, whatever, he's just doing his thing. And yeah, I spent the whole last week of my 8th grade semester in what they call boot camp. And it was this thing where it was kind of like a scared straight sort of thing where like I could either have been suspended from school for the last week, or you can do boot camp, where I can stay in school and it doesn't technically count as a suspension, but I have to spend most of the day doing push-ups, running up and down hills, carrying water, being screamed at by police officers.
Did you do that one?
I did that because no one thought I would. No one thought I would. My mom was like, it's fine. We'll just take the suspension. I was like, it's the last week of 8th grade. I'm not going to miss yearbook signing, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to not be here the last week of 8th grade. So I did it. And every day I came home, my mom was like, all right, you done? You done trying to prove yourself? We can just do the suspension now? And I was like, no. And it wasn't, I threw up a couple of times. It was hard, but it wasn't like the end of the world, And
Sure.
after a while, I was just like proving something to everybody else. But yeah, the thing is I didn't get those comics back again until I was an adult. Like they gave them to my mom gave them to my older brother. He locked them away, and I wasn't allowed to have them until I wanted them as an adult.
Really?
Yeah. He took them and he was like, he read through them and he was like, this is fucked up nonsense. You can have this after you're 18 if you want them. You have to come and talk. You have to come and ask me for them. And so I just waited till I turned 18, and I was like, hey, so give me that shit back. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, no, that's hours and that's like months of work in this one binder. Whether I'm proud of it or not, it's still some shit I did. So
that's my portfolio.
And by that point, he's just like, all right, well, you didn't kill anybody. You're not a monster. I guess you can have this shit back. Like this didn't. Everybody was certain that this was leading to something, and I was just getting my shit out on paper. That was.
I like the idea that once you're 18, you can just go, well, I guess you haven't become a murderer yet. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's like most murderers become murderers after they're 18.
Or
just throwing that out there.
Or they become really good at murdering after 18. They might be clumsy murderers through their teenage years.
Not everybody's fucking Dexter.
Yeah, but the thing is
most people who murder, legit, most people who murder just get caught in a confusing, complicated situation. Mm-hmm. It's almost like Fargo, where it's like one thing goes wrong and then everything snowballs. There's fewer people in the world whose intention it is to go out and murder everybody. It's a small. The 24-hour news cycle would have you believe, and the culture that we're in would have you believe that everybody and every other person is like a serial killer.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
Yeah.
There are so few of them that there's that show on Netflix called A Mindhunter, and it's about how they only in the last 50 years started studying the idea of serial killers, which says to me that they probably weren't a lot of them before that if they didn't think to note them.
I don't know that it was that there weren't a lot of them. I think the methods through which they could connect crimes and prove things was very loose up to a certain point.
I guess you're right.
Even DNA and fingerprints and shit are fairly new.
Yep.
Fairly new realization in the crime industry. So I'm sure there was all kinds of people just murdering their way across America over and over again, but they just seemed
all sorts of people.
But they just seemed like loose, random, unconnected things. It's
Sure.
like now we can sit there.
But you think back then they were really trying to cover their tracks if it was really that easy to be murdering?
No, I don't think they had to cover their tracks. Is what I'm saying. I just think it's like that John Mulaney bit. It's like yeah, he was laying over here in this pool of blood. It's like gross. Clean that up. Anyways, I got a hunch. It at the time, these are small town cops. The feds aren't really going to get involved unless it's like Jack the Ripper leaving cute notes on the bodies and stuff and being like, it was me, or the Zodiac Killer or whatever. You had
murder number 17. Have you found the first 16?
You had to tell the cops you were a serial killer for them to understand a serial killer existed.
Yeah.
Seriously, or and then it came down
I've
to
been killing
and stuff.
serially.
Seriously, serially. Yeah, you had to dress up like a clown or something just so everything could line up, and it's that is a pretty new thing. I'm pretty sure people have been successful murder. It was probably really easy to just murder a lot of people before 1980.
What about 1980?
I'm serious. I'm not even kidding. Because I feel like just the way computers hadn't developed yet and everything, too. And everybody was doing cocaine.
Just the idea that, like, not a cop in anywhere found anything. The entire...
Everybody's just confused, like, rubbing their head.
The FBI was created before 1980.
Oh, I know,
right?
but I'm saying, like, the FBI gets involved after
the
it's
entire setting of Mindhunter, the television show, which is vaguely documentary-ish, is set in, like, the 50s or something like that. 60s, yeah.
Okay.
So, they
how many serial
figured out...
killers?
They had a couple. There were a few.
Really?
But they were
so none of them were, like,
they
famous ones. Okay, I thought that they were, like, drawing on famous profiles.
No, it's about the idea that one guy was like, hey, maybe we could figure out how to find murderers by finding connections, and they're like, fuck you, kid.
Yeah, like, what do I gotta be home by 5.
You know where I just follow the blood to a guy holding a knife.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you find a murderer.
Yeah.
No, what was I gonna say? There was that one guy, and I think it's right near the World's Fair. So what was it, like 1890, 1910, that vicinity?
Okay.
I'm half making this up. I'm not Googling anything.
That was the last
there was
World's
a guy,
Fair? Is that
No, it was.
We don't do World's
Fairs. It was just called the World's Fair. I think
it only
was
happened
the
once.
one. I don't know.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm sorry, I hate to derail you so early on.
I have no idea.
But why the fuck was there only one World's Fair in 1910? And they were like, you know what? Fuck the world. We're not throwing a fair for everyone else.
No, I believe actually it was just inventions. So once everybody walked around and stole inventions, they didn't have to have another one. They just opened up Sears and Roebuck.
Adults stealing from other adults, too. Yeah. Like all these adults.
I mean, pretty sure.
I should have wrote that down.
Pretty sure that's what life is. But anyway, there's a guy who ran a hotel near the fair.
And it was like a dungeon.
He was murdering people, every person.
He had like elaborate hallways and shit.
Yeah, like back room. Now that's a guy who didn't want to be found, but went through so much intensity. I think he had a couple of names, to be honest with you.
Well, they referenced him in American Horror Story in the hotel one.
Yep.
He was like the guy that designed the murder hotel that the whole thing takes place in, and he like is a ghost that haunts it or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I remember reading about
he's
that
still probably one of the most evil, like, forever still. Like, there's been some bad guys, but he's pretty sick and twisted.
Okay. Is there a difference between the most evil and the most, like, committed to the theatrics of it all? You know, like, I feel like...
I don't know.
I mean, because he built a whole building around it. I don't think that's necessarily so much evil as it is, like... I think it would be more evil if he just killed people in, like really brutal ways, but, like, I feel like he just was having fun with it.
I think he did, though. Because, like, a few of the rooms were, like, gas chambers, and, like, there were spots where, like, he would kick people down into dungeons and just let them starve to death, and it was so, like, the walls were soundproof because it was all stone and shit down there. And I believe it was near the location of the World's Fair because there was a lot of activity there. Maybe there were more than one. Maybe it was a continuous situation. I want to Google it so bad, but I'm not going to.
That's, I remember reading about a guy that had turned his 18-wheeler into a murder cabin, a murder box, basically.
I just feel like it's so much work.
It is so much work, and that's the thing, though, is... I think that just is he's privileged. He had a lot of money, so he could murder people in fantastical ways. I bet there were more evil people out there, people that were more evil, that were just too poor to be able to execute such elaborate murder.
Oh, I'm sure that's the case with all crimes.
Yeah. I
mean, if you're only embezzling from a Dairy Queen, you're not embezzling that much.
Good example.
But if you're, like... embezzling from Enron, you're taking a bit more.
If you're just gunning people down because your dog told you so with a gun, that's like embezzling from a Dairy Queen.
Well, if it's a small town, sure.
Wait. That was New York, wasn't it? Son of Sam?
It was San Francisco.
What?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
California.
Everything looked like shitty New York in that movie, at least. Everything was grimy. San Francisco seems clean to me, but in that movie with John Leguizamo.
Oh, I don't know. I don't actually know much about Son of Sam. Maybe it is New York.
But yeah, he just went around and gunned people down because his dog told him so or whatever. But he was also or like the Zodiac Killer. He just shot people, right?
Maybe that's something. Is Zodiac Killers in California?
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's something.
Son of Sam was definitely the middle of one of the boroughs of New York. I'm sorry, I threw air quotes around boroughs. That's a legitimate term.
It is.
The boroughs. Like, somebody tell the rabbits you guys are calling them that. I don't know.
What do they call counties in Louisiana? Oh, parishes.
Parishes. I like that, though. I like that. I don't know, because there's religion to that, almost.
Except for there isn't.
Well, I know. But there's I don't know, they're magic. That's where fucking magic religion is.
In Louisiana?
Mm-hmm. Because they have all these mixes of different cultures mixing with Christianity, like Haitian and Voodoo and African and everything. So
an Acadian.
Yeah, and mixing with Catholicism.
Well, the Catholicism is the mystical shit.
Right, but I mean also
said.
the fucking Voodoo stuff is pretty mystical too. I think that meeting up with the already sort of pagan Catholicism led to these sort of, I don't know. Again, I feel like God's watching me there.
Voodoo's just like Catholicism in a different country.
Yeah. But it also takes notes from where they were brought here from. I think.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the general makeup and aesthetic, the chicken bones, all that kind of stuff. Catholics don't do that. That definitely comes from somewhere else.
Sure.
But again, that kind of goes to the reason the magic, or I feel like it's magic, is because literally I feel like God has to be watching those people. Like when I go to Baptist church, God's not looking at that. God doesn't want to watch me in Baptist church because all those people are lame and they're not doing anything worth looking at. Catholics feel bad all the time.
Sure.
So you gotta keep an eye on them. Because they're so guilty.
They're so guilty, they're probably going to do something.
Yeah. Or, I don't know, I just feel like a dragon is about to explode from a tabernacle whenever I'm looking at it. Like the couple of times, you go to an old enough church, and it just seems like they can summon stuff.
Interesting.
That was more in Germany that kind of started, where, I was going to, cathedrals that were, older, they were, 3 times as old as America. So, they were just, these old structures that are...
Did you get the vibe of the dragon?
Well, not necessarily a dragon, more like a demon or a daemon, not necessarily an evil entity, more as just a elemental creature, perhaps, or.
It's okay if it's a dragon.
See, Catholics don't really give me a dragon vibe, I guess, but definitely something on cloven hooves, something
Do you ever do any heavy praying, in there?
Yeah.
You ever go to a retreat, a long time retreat?
Not with Catholic. I did retreats and stuff with Baptist groups, but they're not so much about making yourself feel bad. Not you need to.
They don't have
apologize.
talks about it. They don't have a lot of talks about it. It's
no,
not
I did
really
heavy praying in Catholic churches in Germany because I would learn the prayers the Rosary and shit like that. And also. I was a very blasphemous sort of heathen kid around that time when I was 17, and I remember going into the first place being I'm whatever, I'm gonna be all disrespectful, and immediately I was struck with this weird sort of oh no, I can't do that. I was
felt
I
bad.
have to.
It was imposed upon you.
I have to be respectful of this.
Yeah.
And then everywhere else I went, I would light candles. I would put money in the coffer. I would demand a tour if it was happening. I would want to learn everything about every one of those buildings. And that was the whole thing. Is that was just the structure that this religion happened to be contained in. This wasn't. Nobody was fucking shame on you when I'm walking in. Most of these places make money off of the tourist part of it, so they're hey, welcome. But I just got in there and I was just oh fuck, this is I don't know. There's a weight to it.
It's like Vatican City, the center of this like super old religion that's like horrible, murdered thousands of people, all sorts of insanity, but it's like so like sanctified that when you go in there, it's like so beautiful. You're like, I believe maybe it seems all real.
I get that.
Seems like a thing.
But it's also like shiny and golden and like well kept, right?
Well, not all the time, and not all the areas. Some of the like frontal areas, of course, will be that way, because they upgrade it. They upgrade. When I was there, they were upgrading it. So when I saw Vatican City, I just saw scaffolding. So I only saw the inside. Yeah. I never saw the outside. But I've seen it since then, like in pictures, and it's like, oh man, I really missed the glory that was that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gold, certainly comes from murdering tons of people. But when you go inside, it's like any Catholic church, though. They get the windows, stained glass windows. Yeah. They get the statues. They got marble work. Lord knows how much money any one of those artists was paid for their work or whatnot. But I suppose we're still looking at it, so that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But Vatican City is its own country,
right? It's
so
in Switzerland,
it can
right?
do whatever it wants.
No, it's in Italy.
It's in
but
Rome.
The Swiss isn't like the Swiss Guard or something. Isn't there something? Wait, how did the Vatican, like the people that actually guard it, like the weird outfits?
They've got some outfits, yeah, but I don't think it's the Swiss Guard.
Okay.
I don't know though.
See, I don't know much about the Vatican City. Like, how is that handled during the war? What did the big war, World War II? How is the Vatican treated during World War II by the
meaning
Allies?
like, are you involved or not? I don't know. I bet you they were.
Did we bomb it? Did we blow it up?
I bet you not.
Okay.
It's like one of those things where like a bunch of people are fighting, but then like they all agree that this one area is off limits.
Okay.
Like they're like, hey, okay, listen, we all super love this area, this park right here.
Yeah.
How about let's just bomb everywhere else in the city? Cool.
Okay.
Like that's kind of how I feel like it was handled. That being said, I have no idea what the church's stance was during the war. I'm sure they were against it.
Well, but they were stuck in the middle of, Italy, so,
Yeah, they're in the middle of Rome. The location of where it is doesn't seem to be, unless...
Of any, like, military...
I don't know, it kind of is.
Well, see, that's my whole thing.
Hard to know.
Is honestly... Okay, because in Germany...
I will look it up, but I'm not going to look it up now.
In Germany, most of those cathedrals survived being bombed or were rebuilt. Like, it seemed like religious centers were a target. The way, like...
You're right, and Hitler did not like Catholics, so I bet you he did do something.
So
I don't know, I'll look it up.
And at that time, I would think that would be... That's a big button that America could have pressed at the time, as far as, like, trying to fuck with the Axis, and especially like Mussolini and stuff. It's like, all right, well, you don't get the city of God anymore, or whatever. Like you don't get the city of white Catholic God or whatever. But but like in Germany,
do Italians consider themselves white? I don't think so.
They don't, because
they consider themselves Italian.
Oh, I know, but olive.
I don't think they'd. I just don't think they'd call it white.
Oh, I know, but I feel like they fall in with like Caucasians, Irish, Italian.
Sure, technically,
Germans, Polish people.
The phrase Caucasian indicates people from the Caucasus Mountains,
yeah.
But that's in Russia and not anywhere near Spain or. Because if then is Spain Hispanic? Because it's not. Spain Spanish. Hispanic means another area.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's hard to know because people from Spain look exactly like people from Italy. Sorry, everyone who thinks that they're special and different. But it's like, I don't know. The lumping is the difficult situation because mostly it's just the northern areas. Like the Netherlands, Sweden would look like what you expect. Great Britain, sure. But even France is not that...
Okay.
France is a little white.
Normally, I would back off on this sort of, on this point when I start to like... No, you know what? Fuck it. Italians were never really, like, they haven't, like, experienced, like, a whole shit ton of hardship, like, from the rest of the world, like other, like, races are. So, yeah, they're white in my head. So are Irish people, Scottish people.
I hear what you're saying. The other thing I was going to say, though, is that they are kind of, because we all still make fun of their accent, really.
Oh, well, that's as hard as it ever was for them. They also, like,
right.
they also...
make pizza, you know. And...
Dude, they were in charge of the world for a really, 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 really long time. And then, like, halfway in charge of the world just through Catholicism.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, the Italians have been fine. Like, their country's a fucking mess, from what I understand. Like,
I heard an interview with a British actor today where he referred to the UK as the 51st state. Because he was like, yeah, used to be big imperialists take over the world. Now it's just kind of America-like.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, damn. Oh, that is rough.
Yeah, like, Italy apparently has, like, elections coming up. And it is a shit show. Like,
right.
Yeah, like, what's his name? Berlusconi is coming back, who was, like, their prime minister before that. He used to throw orgies. Like Italy is just
crazy.
above, like, Greece as far as, like, just having its shit together right now, it seems like, in the EU.
Didn't Greece go bankrupt and shit?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just in front of... It's just...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. No, it's, like, neck and neck with Greece as far as just being a completely... Like, I mean... Because it seems like it's this weird guy, Berlusconi, who was the prime minister for many terms, and just sort of this eccentric, weird, like, eyes wide shut kind of fucking, like, sex maniac. But it's like him or, like, a straight-up fascist. And I don't know. It's kind of neck and neck for them right now. And, like, fascism... They took the fascism real quick in Italy back in the day, so it's like... I mean, they definitely were, like, fourth down on the totem pole of, like, terrible fascists as far as, like, we know in their numbers and everything, but, at that time period, but, yeah, no, fuck that. Like, Italians, Irish people, Scottish people, Polish people, Germans, anything like that, it's
white, I guess.
It's white. Yeah, if the hardest thing they have to deal with is us calling them, like, Chef Boyardee, they just gotta fucking... That is potatoes to everything else. That is nothing compared to, like, what a lot of other groups have had to deal with through history.
Yeah.
And, I mean...
How do we get to the Pope? Oh, God. Wait, how do we get to the Vatican City?
Because I was asking about, like... Because in Germany, most of the cathedrals that I went to survived the war. And I think, like... Because all of the cathedrals were, like, these sort of... I mean, they were oppressive-looking places already, but, like, then for them to be, like, war-torn and, like, scarred from battle and stuff. Like, none of them had this grandiose, perfect, golden veneer. They were all, like, these, like, cobblestone-looking places. Mm-hmm. So, like medieval, like, architecture. So, like, the Vatican would have given me a different impression. I feel like this was, like, this no-frills kind of Catholicism. It's like, you come here because you fucking have to. And like, you don't do it because it's pretty or anything else. Like, the Vatican has an aesthetic draw to it, whereas, like, everywhere I went looked like the most miserable place on earth. But then this is where people went every... I don't know. I want to say Sunday, but Catholics kind of do it differently. So, like, they went, like, 3 or 4 times a week their entire fucking lives and just begged God not to hate them.
It's either once a week on Sunday or it's every day.
Okay, see, yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
There's 2 types of Catholics.
And it's early as fuck on Sunday, too. It's like... It's like when the sun comes up for some reason.
It's early as fuck every day. If you're a daily one, you're getting up early.
Yeah.
You're doing like an 8 a.m. mass.
It was a shitty, like, sad-looking place to go and just apologize to God for just being alive that day. And just doing the shit that living people do. And, yeah, no, I just, like... That taught me a respect. I feel like if I'd have gone to the Vatican, I would have just been like, this is like a Great Gatsby kind of feel, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is, of course,
too
this
fancy.
Is what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, why would you fucking not do this? This sounds like a golden calf kind of scenario, like Moses back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know, like, it just seemed gaudy and everything. Like, the pile of rocks that I would go visit in Germany it's like there must be something magic because they were full every time I walked into one, and it was just people quietly just doing their fucking Catholic stuff, and it's like, why do you do this? It's beautiful outside today, you know, and
yeah, but there's
that's
something
power.
nice about that. It's really interesting. I mean, also you said yourself that the power overcame you in the first church and made
Right.
you like be quiet and respectful in every other church. The power got you.
Well, see, that's the thing, what is that? See, that's an indescribable power. Like, I can tell you why people fucking want to go to the
best
Vatican.
kind of powers are the indescribable ones.
Right, and only Catholics can pull that off. I've never been to a Baptist church that, you know, was older than the building was older than, 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
We you know, they want to modernize and sort of, bring in the children and stuff, and it's like, Catholics don't have to worry about bringing in kids because the fucking parents are bringing in the kids, and the kids have jack shit to say about it, you know?
It's true. We baptized our baby.
Yeah, immediately.
Yep.
Immediately.
We don't go to church ever, but we want to baptize
And
baby.
he will probably be drawn to the Catholic Church at some point. Just be like, what is this? What's going on? What's pulling me? And it's going to be
I'm
that
sure
little
he
bit
will.
of water that's soaked into his forehead. He's going to be
He's the sweetest baby every other minute of the day. He hated it. He did not
Yeah.
like the water on his head. He was not into it.
I mean, yeah, it's whatever. I didn't like being baptized when I was a teenager, so it's like, meh, you know, and they dunk you all the way in Baptist church, so it's
Oh yeah.
The thing is, though, is you get to remember it, and also your ego gets to go, woo, because everybody applauds it and everything. It's not like something only the family goes to do. I assume christenings are just a family event, right?
Yeah, it was us and a family. There were two, essentially it's as many babies as need to be baptized, and
Oh, they
you're
line 'em
allowed
up?
to have a family. Yeah, but there were only 2 babies on ours, so it was we did ours,
Nice.
and there was a little baby girl. That was about it.
Nice.
But there can be up to, before us, so there's the Spanish one, and then there's the English one. We were in the English one, and it was us and one other family. In the Spanish one, there were about 6 babies.
Awesome.
So there was a line of
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah, no, that's cool. When I got baptized, it was just in front of the entire congregation on a Sunday. Just a bunch of people that I knew, kinda, I guess. But, it was a platform for everyone to look at me. That's what it was.
Sure.
You know? That was the draw as a kid. It was just oh, okay, I'll splash around, and then everybody's gonna applaud when I come back up. That signed me up. I did it 3 times.
You did it!
I did it at least twice.
You're not allowed to double
I had to
baptize.
rededicate myself. I had to rededicate myself at one point.
No.
Yeah, no.
So you're
'cause-
born again?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah!
fuck yeah. Born again, died twice. I don't know.
You're crazy.
Whatever, I guess it is. But I was born as many times as it was entertaining to everyone around me. For real, it was one of those oh, I can just keep doing this because they offer you the opportunity to oh, have you lapsed in your faith? And come on up,
Come on up.
reestablish. Yeah, and everybody will watch. Everybody will look at you while we do this, and it's I want everybody to look at me. So I just kept going up with these weird crises of faith.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that were genuine. I was really having those crises of faith, but it was really more about everybody watching me find Jesus again.
Can you write a sitcom about a performer kid in a small town who keeps going to get himself baptized to get some attention? There's no... And then finally the priest comes up to him and is like, hey, why don't you start an open mic in the church basement? He's like, that's a great idea.
Or pats me down for Groucho Marx glasses and stuff. I've gone so many times now, I'm popping up with tambourines and shit and lasers. It's all right, man. Look, it's this is the 4th time this month.
You're doing...
I swear to God, if you got a
and
dicky that
dance
flaps,
numbers,
yeah, if you come up and you go waka waka one more time, I swear to God, you can't come back. You know, come up with a ventriloquist dummy, make it talk, and then spit the water out.
The priest is like, other people might not have noticed, but I know what's going on here.
Yeah. Jesus has saved you more than you ever deserve to be saved. You know, Jesus is tired this month.
Jesus has better things to do.
Yeah. You literally ran out all your tokens before you were 14. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, it was
Well,
nice chatting with you.
It was super fun. Yeah. This kind of was all over the place, but
yeah. I mean, the list of things I've written down of things we've talked about is very weird.
Yeah, totally.
But looking forward to that. It's inspired a bit of creativity in me, so I'm feeling good.
No,
about
I kind
that.
of now that you said that, I kind of do want to write. Just I don't know. I kind of want to write about a kid just getting saved for the
really
spectacle. Yeah, for the attention.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious.
Mom, I'm sorry if that becomes like the reason I'm famous one day in the future. I'm gonna apologize now.
Don't be sad, Renee. It'll be okay.
But no. Thanks for having me over. This was fun. Michelle, marry me.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Yes But Why podcast.